Happy New Year, everybody. Beer here, back in the Fantasy Bar. 2021 is here, and what a better way to start than with 6 of my favorite plays on FanDuel and DraftKings, including some of my favorite value plays, what game I'm stacking up, and of course, my favorite play of the night. Who is it? Belly up to the Fantasy Bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. The first Beers Daily Fantasy 6-pack of the new year. 2021 is here. Thank you for spending your time here in the Fantasy Bar. I am Beer, and this is Beer's Daily Fantasy 6-pack. 6 of my favorite plays across both FanDuel and DraftKings. Hopefully, you had a great new year, but we're ready to ring in the new year with those 6 plays fresh off the tap for you. Now, before we get into the plays here, do me a favor. Click that thumbs up button, guys. That's the tip jar here in the Fantasy Bar. Really helps us out over at RotoGrinders on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. Got NBA and NFL videos continuing on even into the playoffs. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, get those notifications. All right, let's get into the plays. Big slate of games, 10 games on tap, and I've narrowed it down to 6 of my favorites. Let's start with a value play from the Pistons, Josh Jackson. Now, this guy playing very well. He's a guy I think you're going to see really start to break out here, a guy that really struggled coming into the league. It was a top 5 pick coming out of Kansas, a lot of hype around Josh Jackson, and really hasn't lived up to it. But I think this fresh start with Detroit is really going to do well for him, and we've really seen that so far in the results. I mean, we're talking about a guy, 32 or more DraftKings points in 3 of the first 4 games this season, and you look at the price, things just don't equate. I mean, we're talking about an easy 6x return on DraftKings, even higher over on FanDuel. You're talking 6, 7x return as the baseline here, with upside to get you 8, 9, 10x return. Now we're talking about winning GPPs with those kind of numbers. And as we know, teammate Blake Griffin not going to play tonight, and that's been good things here for Josh Jackson, averaging 1.27 FanDuel points per minute. All information you can find in our Court IQ tool over at RotoGrinders, an invaluable tool if you are not a premium member. But the point is, Josh Jackson, a great play, even if Blake was in there playing well. But take Blake out, they're going to need his offense here, and the price is simply too cheap. I'll be loading up today on some Josh Jackson. All right, let's continue with the value plays here. Let's go to the other side of that game with point guard PAYTON PRITCHARD of the Celtics. Now, maybe not a household name with PAYTON PRITCHARD here, but a guy that I loved coming out of Oregon, a guy that plays with a lot of confidence, and you've really seen that, really not going to run into that rookie struggles. I mean, everybody's going to hit that wall eventually, but this guy's not going to be afraid of the big stage. And with Kemba Walker out, expected it to be Jeff Teague kind of taking on more of the load, and he's certainly done his part, but PAYTON PRITCHARD has really stepped up for this Boston team and has stepped up for us in the DFS world as well. I mean, he's not out there scoring 50 points or anything, but we're looking for cash games. You know, a lot of people out there play cash games. This guy's playing enough minutes to get you there on a $3,700 salary. We're talking 20 or more minutes in 4 straight games. I still think there's more upside than what he's shown. And even when he's done in GPPs, he's easily paying off those salaries. But I do think there is bigger upside coming for PAYTON PRITCHARD, and this could be exactly the type of matchup that unlocks at Detroit, giving up almost 125 points per game over their last 3. We know they're in a rebuild. Defense, obviously not a part of that rebuild here. The Pistons terrible defensively. PAYTON PRITCHARD remains too cheap. The role is there. I think he has a big day here against the Detroit Pistons. All right, value rolls on. Try to make it easy. Leave room for the Giannis's of the world for you. We're going to go with another value play at power forward with Thaddeus Young of the Bulls. So I think Otto Porter Jr., obviously coming off that big game. We know Lauri Markkanen not going to play today. I think Porter's going to be the guy that everybody's talking about. You're going to see him pop in a lot of the projection models. I also think you're going to see very high ownership on Otto Porter, a guy that we know can pop off for those big games and then come back and disappoint. So I'd rather go with a guy that's cheaper and a guy that has not as much ownership here in Thaddeus Young, and he's already shown us. I mean, at these prices, he almost hit 10x in his first game of the season here, and I realize this game probably gets out of hand. The Bucks, massive favorites in this game. With a guy like Thaddeus Young, I don't worry about that as much. If I'm rostering a guy like Zach LaVine, I'm paying a big price. I need this game to stay competitive for 4 quarters. I'm a lot more worried about it than a guy like Thaddeus Young, who may only need a half to pay off this salary or exceed that salary. So there's a big difference. You have to factor blowouts into your research, but when you're paying a cheap price here, it's not a factor at all for me. I think Thaddeus Young kind of flies under the radar here. Not the sexiest name, but a guy I think can get it done here under 4,000 on both sites. All right, let's spend up a little bit. We're not going to go crazy here at center position. with Thomas Bryant of the Wizards. So Bryant playing some big minutes here, and that's what we like to see out of the big man. 30 or more minutes in each of the last 4 games here. Scoring has been there as well. Double-digit points in every single game so far this season. The thing that's kind of lacking is the rebounding with Thomas Bryant. Love to see more of those double-doubles out of him, and I think this is the kind of matchup where we start to get more rebounds. We know Karl-Anthony Towns is out on the other side. I think that's going to mean good things here for Thomas Bryant. We know Russell Westbrook out on the Washington side. Maybe he gets a few more shot attempts. The offense clearly not going to run through Thomas Bryant, but does get a nice 2% usage bump without Westbrook on the floor. So add it all together. Thomas Bryant, we saw last season, massive upside at these mid-range prices in this matchup with Minnesota. One of my favorites here. I'm loving this spot and loving these prices on center. Thomas Bryant. All right, let's go to the other side of that game. I really like that game. We're going to go with shooting guard, D'Angelo Russell. Now, this one very similar to what we talked about with Thaddeus Young. I think you're going to see a lot of people go to Naz Reid with Karl-Anthony Towns out of the lineup, and I'm okay with that. But let's think about offensively. And with no Karl-Anthony Towns, somebody's going to have to do the heavy lifting here, and it's going to be D'Angelo Russell. When we take Karl-Anthony Towns off the floor, and we're going to go all the way back to last season as well and include those numbers, we're talking about a usage rate over 29% for D'Angelo Russell. And another team very similar to what we talked about with the Pistons, Washington, giving up a ton of points. We know that they play zero defense. They've given up 120 or more in 3 of the last 4. In fact, 130 or more in 2 of the last 4 games. This game should be a back and forth, definitely a game you want to stack up. But D'Angelo Russell, even if you're not stacking it, a cool 7,500 on both sites, playable in all formats here on this New Year's slate. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite New Year's play. But before we do that, guys, we're going to continue our Beast of the Night contest. Absolutely free to play. A thank you to you guys for watching the video. Just get in the comment section. Let me know fantasy points for my favorite play. The closest guess will win themselves a free 3-day pass to RotoGrinders Premium or a free RotoGrinders t-shirt. Without further ado, let's wrap this baby up. My favorite play, you know, that's the Beast of the Night. All right, Beast time. One more play to go, and we're going to stay right in that Washington-Minnesota game. We're going to go back to the Washington side. We're going to roll with shooting guard Bradley Beal, tonight's Beast of the Night. Now, we talked about Russell Westbrook off the floor. Obviously, Bradley Beal gets a big jump. In fact, the usage jumps to an absolutely elite 36.7% here for Bradley Beal. We talked about how bad Washington is defensively. Guess what? Minnesota, even worse. When we look at the 20 teams on this slate, Minnesota, 3rd worst defensive rating of all these teams, and Beal just getting it done night in, night out, as you expect. 40 or more DraftKings points in every single game this season. We've yet to see that big 60, 65, 70 burger out of Bradley Beal. I think this is a competitive game, and I think we get that ceiling game here out of Bradley Beal. We still left you plenty of money to roster another stud here, but I love these prices under 10K for Bradley Beal in a tremendous matchup, making him easily my favorite play of the night and tonight's Beast of the Night. All right, guys, that'll wrap us up here for our New Year's Day 6-pack. Any comments, questions, feedback, hit me up in that comment section right below the video. You can also follow me on Twitter at Beermakersfan. And if you're looking for just a podcast version, you don't want to see this ugly mug, head over to RotoGrinders and check it out on the podcast feed. Will be a dedicated channel just to 6-packs alone, so make sure you go and check that out as well. For RotoGrinders.com, I am Beer, saying salut, Happy New Year, best of luck tonight, guys, and we'll see you.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist.